Have you ever wondered what it would be like to attend dental school in a rural community and an urban community in the same school? Well, we've got a podcast for you. Welcome to the Dental School Guide podcast, your ultimate destination for all things dentistry. I'm Dr. Tanner Townsend, your guide through the complex world of dental education. Join us as we uncover the secrets of acing dental school admissions, navigating residency programs, and exploring career opportunities. Please share and enjoy. Real quick, just wanted to make all you pre-dental students out there aware of a resource. If you've ever been worried about getting into dental school or are wanting to get into that school of your dreams, then you definitely want to check out a program called Dental School Guide. In the program, we walk you through how to save money, time, and heartache when applying to dental school. There's so much fluff out there when it comes to resources for getting into school, and we are streamlining all of that. With our comprehensive digital course, expert mentorship, and personalized application review services, you'll have everything you need to stand out to admission committees. Take advantage of this amazing resource that will help you increase your chances of getting into dental school. You'll want to check out dentalschoolguide.com. Check it out. My name is Dr. Tanner Townsend. I'm your host, and we're here with Hannah Brein. Today, she is a D2 student at Mosdoh in Missouri. So, Hannah, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
You bet. So today, Hannah, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about your experience in dental school. Hannah's a D2 currently at Mosdoh in Missouri, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what Mosdoh's like, and as well as when she was interviewing for dental school, what her interview process was like. So Hannah, first, tell us how you got into dental school. What made you interested in dentistry to begin with?
Right. Well, I really think it goes back to sixth grade. I was on a Girl Scout camping trip, walked up a wet slide, avulsed my central incisor. It was fully knocked out. After that, I had to go to the dentist for multiple root canal treatment, a splint, a porcelain crown, gum reshaping. And so that kind of lasted, with braces included from sixth grade through end of high school. I got to watch my first root canal through a mirror, just in the dental chair, and I thought it was really interesting. But, I have parents in medicine. My dad's an anesthesiologist, mom's a nurse anesthetist, so I honestly thought I wanted to go to medical school. So when I got to Virginia Tech, it didn't feel quite as right going to med school, and then I decided to go to Virginia Tech's ASDA pre-dental club my sophomore year of college. Loved what they were talking about, so I decided to shadow, and I just felt like, okay, this feels more natural to me. So bunch of shadowing hours, volunteer hours through Virginia Tech. Eventually, I applied after doing the VCU CERT program at VCU, and I applied broadly to schools. I interviewed at VCU and Mosdoh, VCU being in Virginia, Mosdoh being Missouri. My home state is Virginia. And I got into Mosdoh, and I accepted their invitation to be part of their class really quick after my interview. And now I'm here as a D2.
Well, that's awesome. Okay, I totally had forgotten that you are from Virginia. Where in Virginia are you from?
I'm from Virginia Beach, specifically Chesapeake, for people that don't know the area too much. Uh, yeah, I've been in Virginia my whole life. So I thought, maybe going to an in-state school because BC is the only one could be great. But then I really loved my interview process in Missouri, which was surprising to me.
Well, awesome. So yeah, we'll get into that interview process in a moment of what that was like at both schools. But that is really cool that you're from Virginia Beach. So many of my classmates, because I went to VCU, are from Virginia Beach and then went to Virginia Tech. So I love Blacksburg. I did my residency program down in Abingdon, Bristol, Virginia area.
Oh gosh, I'm
So
familiar with that area. Small country town. It's great.
yeah, so it is. I love that Southwest Virginia area. So that is a beautiful area down there.
For sure.
All right, so let's get into our next couple questions here. So tell us a little bit more about, it's Mosdoh, right? Is that how you
Yeah.
guys pronounce your, okay.
Yeah, some
So
people say Mosdoh. It just stands for Missouri School of Dentistry and Oral Health.
awesome. So, Mosdoh, tell us a little bit about Mosdoh as a school. Is it a pass-fail school? Is it a graded curriculum? And what does your typical day look like at school?
Yeah, so it is a graded curriculum. Uh, Oftentimes I wish, I had a mode of pass fail, but we don't have that at Mosdow. It is, an integrated system-based form of didactic studies. So we learn everything in body systems and then apply it to all of our tests. But for every day in Mosdow, it looks a little different as a D1 versus a D2. For us, because I have some friends where a lot of their didactic is in the D2, but for us as a D1, you take a lot of your didactic classes in that first semester. So it's from 8 to 5, whether it's physiology, biochemistry, anatomy, pharmacology, histology, it's all in that first semester of D1. And that's pretty much what it looks like as your first year there. Into your second semester as D1, you start to sprinkle in a lot more of SimLab. So then it becomes, half didactic, half SimLab, 8 to 5. And then once you're a D2, you're pretty much weaning off of all those didactic courses with, some big tests scattered in just in between. And you're pretty much in SimLab, 8 to 5 for the whole year.
Okay, that's great. So a
Yeah.
lot of schools around the country, they'll do a similar kind of thing where they'll do didactic heavy first year, and then D2 year, they'll definitely do more sim lab. Some schools are almost half and half that second year, but that's really cool to hear that Mosdow is very heavy in the sim lab, especially your second semester D2 year. So
Yeah.
what are some of the sim lab classes? What's the first sim lab class you get to take, and when do you get to start taking that your first year? And then what are the classes that you're currently taking?
So when you're in SimLab in your first semester of D1, it's mainly, just pouring casts, doing wax ups, and then you kind of, take a step back from SimLab after those projects because of didactic. So I would say the real first thing that you're doing in SimLab in your second semester of D1 is operative. It's class ones, uh, filling and drilling for a good month, and then you move on through the rest of operative, and then by D2, you're more in pros.
Okay, so your first year you're doing a lot of operative, which is pretty standard between schools, and then your second year you're doing a lot of pros. So
Yeah,
we doing removable pros? Are we doing crown and bridge? Are
all
you
of
doing
it.
root canals? All of it? Okay,
Yeah, we did root
awesome.
canals, we did fixed, we did partials, we did full dentures, crown and bridge, just crowns, a lot of progress exams for those. But then for didactic, I mentioned briefly, it's more so through body systems. So in your first year, you do all of cardiac, all of lungs, respiratory, um, all in our second year, it's just finishing up GI. So you do every body system, CNS, and then pathology is incorporated through all of those different body systems. So instead of just having a histology block or a pharm block or, a biochemistry course, um, they're all incorporated into one system, and then we test cumulative on it.
Okay, that's really good to know. So a lot of it body system based, moving from one system to the other. But then you're
Right.
tested cumulatively just on that system, correct?
Yeah, and once you finish all those, which is where I'm in now, it's just a bunch of case reviews, case studies, applying everything that we learned to, uh, you know, theoretical dental patients or, past private cases.
So that's one of the beautiful things about Mosdow is it is a cumulative focusing on applying your knowledge. So a lot of different schools don't really apply their knowledge as well, especially with the didactic curriculum. A lot of them are just like, here's the test, here it is, set it and forget it. You're going to forget it, and then you'll have to remember it for boards your D3, D4 year. So that's
Yeah.
really cool that Mosdow really does focus on the cumulative, how do I apply this didactic knowledge? Because a lot of times it's really easy to be like, okay, I learned it once, and it's in one ear and out the other.
Right. Yeah, we once you finish everything, we have these things called flip tests. So you're not off the hook with, something like cardiac. You will be tested on it again a year later. So, I mean, it was stressful at first, but now we're kind of grateful because it'll just keep our minds turning until we have to take boards.
Yeah, that is a really good thing. And it is unfortunate that it has to be that way, but it's
Yeah.
probably really helpful. It's going to make board
Yeah.
study a heck of a
Yes.
lot easier. Okay. So, what do you feel like the atmosphere is like at school? Do you feel like people are generally positive? Do you feel like it's a little bit of a downer community? What do you feel like the general sense of the student body is?
Yeah, I would say because Mosdow is a small school, my class is only 60 students for us D2s. It feels like a tight-knit community, and we have a split campus. So your first 2 years are in Kirksville, Missouri, which is a small town. I think the population is about 17,000, which is less than, the student population at Virginia Tech when I went. And then you move after your D2 to St. Louis at their dental clinic to treat patients. So you get your rural life and your urban life. I would say, from my experience so far, because I am in the small Kirksville rural campus, uh, it's a very uplifting experience. You're super close with your professors and peers, staff, as well as just people that are in the community, because we're required to do dentistry in the community events each semester. Um, so what I really like is, we're all sharing study material that we've made with each other, whether we, share it on a document or a, Google Drive. Everybody's in constant communication, whether it's through GroupMe or just, passing by. There's no such thing as walking down the hallways and not, saying hi or having a conversation with a classmate because everybody, just knows each other so well at this point. Um, so it doesn't feel like you're in a pressure cooker in those first 2 years at Mosdow. Yes, it gets stressful with didactic and SimLab just from the nature of it, but in terms of your actual experience with people, uh, it's a very uplifting community to be in.
Well, that's really good to know. And so Mosdow, for those of you that don't know, is one of those schools that has a dual campus thing. There's only a few dental schools in the country that do that. And so that is something to consider as you're applying to schools. But it sounds like, Hannah, that it's been a great experience for you, kind of getting that rural and then in the future, starting next year for you, that urban living as well, which
Right?
will be
It's
kind
helped
of
me
fun.
stay focused for sure.
Yeah. And knowing that you're going to move and knowing that you're going to have a new experience, like in the 2 years, is kind of a cool thing
Yeah,
to have a switch of pace and things like that. So,
right.
all right, let's get to the next couple questions here. So, in terms of where the dental school at, rural area, probably super safe, I would imagine. In
Yeah.
terms of where the campus is in St. Louis, is that a safe area? Is it an area where you'd want to raise a family? And do students live really close to the school in the rural and urban area, or do they live a little bit further out to be in a nicer community?
Yeah, I think the beauty of St. Louis is it's a city, but it's smaller than you expect. So, I mean, there's some classmates that live quite literally a walk away from the dental clinic, and then there's others like where I'll be living, where I'm about 12 to 15 minutes out just because I wanted to be closer to the Target, the Trader Joe's, all that stuff. Um, and then I would say, there's a few students in my class that, they have families and they want to live just on the outside of the city, just to have more of, that suburban lifestyle. But, for the most part, students like me, where, mid 20s, just going to dental school and that's it, we either live, 8 minutes from campus or 12 minutes. And I would say that from being in my rotations there, it seems like a pretty safe space to be in. Like all cities, I mean, I'm sure from VCU, uh, there's great parts, and then there's other parts of being in a city where, you just have to remain just a little more keen on, what's surrounding you. Uh, and I think that's wherever you go in a city. But the clinic itself, there's security, there's, people out and about around the area. So I personally haven't, felt unsafe where the dental clinic is in itself.
Well, that's great to hear. So, in terms of like parking around the dental school, is it good parking situation? Are you paying a lot for parking? Or are you having to walk really far to if you're having to do free parking? How does the parking situation work in the St. Louis campus and the rural campus?
So for both, we don't have to pay for parking. We get to school and they give us a sticker for our car. And in the Kirksville parking lot, we park right behind the school. We all get parking and then go to class. And then for the St. Louis parking, there is a big parking lot as well. Everybody just comes in the morning before 7:30, parks their car in the lot and goes on with their day. So that's really nice that, parking hasn't has to be a difficult situation for us.
Yeah, that's really nice. And I think a lot of schools have paid parking. For example, Marquette doesn't have great parking, and I've heard a number of students that have gotten their cars broken into there, unfortunately. And other schools like Mosdoh has great parking. So that is super awesome that they don't charge you for the parking and they have designated spots for you guys. That's great.
Yeah. We just have to park in the student marked spaces, but I mean, I haven't heard too much of a problem with it if you're getting to clinic on time.
That's really good. Okay, so now let's kind of talk about some fun things to do in both areas for both campuses. What social fun things are there to do in the rural campus, and what are the fun things to do in the urban campus?
Yeah, so for the rural campus, there are a bunch of clubs affiliated with the school. I personally am not in clubs, but I am a student ambassador for the school, which is fun. And because it's, a rural area, we have a beautiful park, uh, a giant lake by, a big aquatic center that everybody goes to. So what I found to be quite serendipitous about being in the rural community is, it forces you to value quality time with the friendships that you make. So, at least for me and my friend group, we spend a lot of time, cooking dinners together, going kayaking or paddleboarding, going on long walks on those hiking trails nearby. Um, and there's a bigger like area about an hour and a half away from where we are in Missouri right now called Columbia. So, if you need to go get your Target fix, your Sam's Club fix, all of that, it's kind of nice to just kind of go to another college town for the day, which is where Mizzou is. So it's kind of, everybody loves a college town, so being around that is fun. And then once you go to St. Louis, I mean, the possibilities are endless. Once you get there, it's big foodie area. Forest Park is even bigger than Central Park. So, if you love long walks, that's a great area to be in. Of course, you have the St. Louis Arch and everything that inhabits a city. So whether people like nightlife or, cute little coffee shops and just strolling around, which is something that I prefer, St. Louis does not lack in that.
Okay, well, that's really good to know. It sounds like it's a really cool little area to be, and you get totally two different dynamic living
Yeah.
situations, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, and I didn't know how I felt about it before coming to Mosdow, but now that I'm in it, I do like that I get a change of pace because it feels like I get two different experiences in one, whereas, after college or after dental school like that, and then you just move and that's kind of your next big switch up. But we get to do that, one more time before we really settle down, which I like.
Yeah, and that is something for students to think about. It would probably be a great experience to go in a rural setting, in an urban setting, in a suburban setting at Mosdow because you get the opportunity to see what practice life would be like and rural living would be like if you were to practice in a rural community versus being in a bigger city and having more amenities and things to do. And some people like one over the other, and that is an opportunity to almost test drive what an experience like that would be. So take that seriously if you're a student applying there and going there, because it's a great opportunity to feel out how the living situations would be once you're practicing for real.
Right.
All right, so here's a couple rapid fire questions just about the school. So just give us a short, quick answer on your experience with the school. So for example, with tuition, do they offer in-state tuition? And if so, if you're from out of state, are you able to apply to become in-state after a certain period of time or no?
So Mosdoh is a private school, so it's a flat rate for everyone. Uh, and if you are a Missouri uh, resident, you can apply and get scholarships put on by the Missouri Dental Association to, help pay through school.
And do they let students that are out of Missouri become residents after a year so you can apply to those scholarships as well or no?
I don't believe so. I think, and also I haven't looked too much into it because I think a lot of people that are not from Missouri don't plan on staying in Missouri in the area, so we haven't really looked too much into it.
That's very fair. That's very fair. Okay, so what are some unique features that your program has to offer? Do they offer specialty training? Are there residency programs with specialist training there at your program? Or do you get to do all the molar endo? Do you get to place implants in your program? Do you get to take out wisdom teeth? What are some unique features that your program has to offer?
Yeah, so we don't have a residency programs at our school, which for us is really nice because we get more things to do. We get more things to assist when we are in St. Louis. Going back real quick to something that I find is unique for Mosdoh, at least in Sim Clinic, just from a bunch of conversations that I've had with, my friends that go to other schools now is, you pay your tuition and that covers it all. So when you go to SimLab, I go to the dispensary all the time for as many teeth as I want, as many burrs as I want. My handpiece is broken, I can get whatever without the blink of an eye. So that has taken off a lot of stress for us. Um, and I like our supplies that we have. And then going on to St. Louis, I was really surprised to see how competent a lot of the D3s were in just their first semester of treating patients. And I think that goes to them being able to be a lot more hands-on, with what they're doing because there aren't, so many residents that would, take up a lot of those cases. I've had friends that I just talked to now where they've already delivered multiple full dentures and partials, designed their own fixed partial dentures, placed an implant, have done hundreds of extractions. So it's really nice to know that we have our hands full once we do get to St. Louis.
Well, that's awesome. So a couple key things that I thought you said there. You don't have to pay for teeth, burrs, maintenance on handpiece when you're in SimLab. So
Yeah.
many schools charge you for each tooth extra you buy. They'll usually give you a certain number of teeth to start or a certain number of burrs and certain number of equipment. But we've paid for all that with our tuition, kind of like you. But for example, the school I went to, VCU, I spent thousands of dollars over the years buying teeth, buying burrs, extra things to practice. So being able to go to Mosdoh and get all that stuff that you essentially already paid for is excellent. So
Yeah,
students that are applying there, take advantage of that.
I do. I
Also, I
get
thought,
every five
oh, go for
teeth.
it, Hannah.
No, I was just
Yeah,
saying, I
wait.
can
Yeah, burn through all those teeth you can, man. That is awesome. You can get some killer practice in without having to worry about the financial burden of it. I remember we had classmates that would be like, okay, I've only got 5 teeth to practice, so we got to make the most of these 5 teeth.
yeah,
So
literally.
so that is awesome. And I think it's really cool. Not many programs in the country anymore don't have residency programs, and that's because it's a money generating thing for a lot of the schools, so they push to have residency programs. But that is really interesting and cool that they don't have residency programs. It opens the doors for you to become a more competent general dentist before you graduate. So take advantage of all that you can because that's really cool.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
So what is the faculty ratio like? Are you guys, I know some schools do rotating clinics where you'll be in pros one day and then next day you'll be in oral surgery, next day you'll be in operative, or you have like group practices where you're with like the same faculty all year round. How does the clinics in St. Louis work with that?
Um, so for St. Louis, we have CCUs. We have four of them. So I just found out what my CCU is. So I have, I want to say maybe about 15 of us in one little pod. And then we have two main dentists that kind of float around. We have, our one CCU director, and then there's adjunct faculty, maybe two to three extra rotating on the floor. Each floor has two CCUs, so think maybe like 30 of just, students of one class, but then you also have the D4s there. So that's about 60 students there. And then I would say there's about seven-ish faculty on that floor, give or take. So they're just rotating around from what I've seen because I'm not there full time right now, but I'm rotating, you know, a lot of times, it just depends on the day. You get seen right away for your checkoff, or you might be in a line between, two students to get your checkoff to proceed. But I haven't heard, and dental students talk to each other all the time, gossip, all that. But so thankfully, I haven't heard that it's super frustrating to, see your CCU director or an adjunct faculty when you're in the clinic. And then when you're in Kirksville for SimLab, it's one professor per every 10 to 12 students when you're in SimLab for daily graded projects, which is super nice because we see them all the time.
Yeah, that's really nice because then you develop that relationship with them.
Yeah.
And the CCU thing, that's a very common structure that dental schools employ. So a lot of different dental schools do a similar kind of thing. So that's good that most students have a great experience with their CCU directors.
Yeah.
So with those CCU directors, are there separate departments? Like, is there an oral surgery department? Is there a pros department, or do you just do
Yeah.
everything in your CCU?
So when you're in the school or the clinic, you go on all your rotations that are in the school. So you would go on your oral surgery rotation, you would go on your peds rotation, perio, pros, all that. Um, and then in your fourth year, you do go on external rotations, and that is 3 to 4 weeks. I saw some people in Houston, Salt Lake City. So
So do you
yeah,
get to pick those external rotations, or are they assigned to you?
a little bit of both. You rank them, and then um, you'll usually get one of your top three picks, and then you head off in your first and second semester.
Okay, and do they provide housing for you when you go, and like a food stipend or something like that, or no?
Yes, they do, which
Okay.
super nice.
Yeah, that is super nice. So, super key thing, not all schools do that. Some will provide you a small stipend. Some schools just do a couple days rotations in their local, typically rural clinics, but not all places provide for the housing too. So, keep that in mind. That's a
Yeah,
cool
we get
feature.
the housing, which is nice.
Okay, so here we're going to go into a couple interview questions to kind of close out, explaining your interview process when you were a pre-dent applying to dental school. So what was your interview experience like at Mosdoh? Was it in person? Was it virtual? And kind of what was the format?
Yeah, so for Mosdow, it was an in-person interview. Some of my classmates was virtual, but we had a full day interview where you tour the school, get a walkthrough, or just kind of briefed about facts about Mosdow. And then you have two interviews, each individual with faculty or somebody that's part of admissions. So I had a faculty member who is a prosthodontist, and then I had a member who is just part of its admissions. Each were 30-minute interviews, and they were very conversational, super relaxed, just questions that just had them get to know me more, like what I like to do in my free time, hobbies, tell me about yourself, why dental school, um, you know, all those basic questions that just kind of get you a feel for, the type of person that they might have in the school.
So it was super conversational. It wasn't very, we're going to grill you. We have these set questions that we've got to ask kind of
No,
thing.
not at all.
Okay. So that's a super key feature because a lot of schools do that set question format or where they'll grill you or they'll have the good cop, bad cop kind of thing. And so that is a super key thing that tells a lot about the school, about how they want to have a relationship with their students instead of just having it be a transactional thing where the school gets money and you go to school and you get your degree. So
Right.
it's kind of a key thing that you can pick up just from an interview if how the school reacts and looks and views their students.
Right.
So during that interview process, did they go over financial? Did they have like the financial coordinator for the school kind of review what the finances would look like if you went to that school? Or did they do that after the fact, after you're in?
Yeah, so the interview was kind of split in half. There was one group that did their interviews in the morning while the other in the afternoon and vice versa. So it just depended on which group you happened to be in. But we did have an information session for me, at least in the morning, where we did learn about, how much the school was going to cost, what the cost of living looks like in Kirksville versus St. Louis, and then answering any questions we had about finances.
Okay, so that's really good to know because they walked you through it and they want to help you that way. So what kind of made Mosdoh stand out to you when you were interviewing compared to VCU, where is another place that you applied and that you interviewed
Yeah,
at?
I would say, well, it was coming off of 2020, so, certain schools were only doing online interviews and some were in person. With VCU, I was online, even though I was, still in Richmond right next door at the time. And I will say it didn't feel as tangible as it did at Mosdow. It was also, a much bigger school, and that seemed a little daunting to me. The interview went well. I would say it was pretty conversational, like Mosdow, but like I said, I had that tangible experience and I really got to see the community in Missouri. And luckily, I was already living in Richmond at the time, so I knew it was like, uh, to see what it would be like to live in Richmond. I really liked how they already made me feel like I was a part of the school at Mosdow. Like they already wanted me to be there, and it felt like, yeah, we just need to see that, you're a good person, and then we want you. And again, like it was a small school, you know, I could see that people were really close with their professors, just kind of observing as I was walking about. And I didn't want to feel like I'd be intimidated by the people that were teaching me all the time. Uh, and now that I'm here, I'm happy to say, we're all so close with our professors. We stop by their offices with them just to chat about life all the time. So they feel like they'll be lifelong friends one day. And so seeing just how close knit and how it felt more like a family rather than uh a big school, that's what I liked, and I could personally see myself in that type of environment, which is why when I did get the call I got into Mosdow, I sent in my deposit right away.
Yeah, and that's a huge factor. Having that relationship of that open door policy with your faculty is huge. Being able to go interact with them and not have it be weird and having a good relationship so you can ask them questions when you need help. So I think you made the right choice, Hannah. I think Mosdow was perfect for you, and I think it is an awesome place to be. So a couple other questions about the interview process, or I guess post-interview process. A lot of schools have programs called like D.5s or like a trial year. Does Mosdow offer anything like that? And that would be like the student is automatically admitted after they take certain courses the following year.
I am not aware that we have that program, but I do know I think a local college, St. Louis University, they do have kind of an accelerated program where in their college, if you maintain certain GPA, get a certain DAT score, I believe you're automatically guaranteed either an interview or acceptance to Mosdoh, but we don't have a D.5 program.
Okay. And so is that program in St. Louis, is that a master's program? Is that an undergrad
I believe it's an
program?
undergrad program.
Okay. So if you're from the you said University of St. Louis, correct?
Yeah. I think
That
they
is
call it SLU there, St. Louis University.
okay. So at St. Louis University, if you take advantage of that program, that might be an awesome program if you're really serious about attending Mosdoh. So take a look at that and look into seeing what the requirements are for the DAT and your GPA. So Hannah, we're going to wrap this up here. Any final advice that you want to give to pre-dents applying to dental school and what they should be considering?
I think personally from my experience, when definitely apply broadly because you just never know what experience you're going to have going to a school. When I found out I was interviewing at VCU, I was like, I'm so set on this. I'm from Virginia. I'm going to love it. And then I was so surprised that, I felt, more drawn to a different school 18 hours away in the Midwest where I'd never heard of. So, you know, just be so open to how you feel when you're interviewing at schools. And, you know, I think it's very similar to when you're applying to colleges for undergrad. If you can see yourself there, rather just than loving the idea of maybe the brand that the school has to offer, um, you know, really think about that. See, if you can already envision yourself walking along those halls and talking to those professors, I think that is a great start when, choosing a dental school or looking to apply to a dental school.
Great advice, Hannah. That is awesome. Okay, well, that is it for today's episode of the Dental School Guide podcast. Hannah, thank you for being on once again.
Yeah,
And
thank you for having me.
you bet, and we will talk to you later, okay?
See ya.
That's all for today's episode of the Dental School Guide podcast. We hope you've gained valuable insights and inspiration to fuel your journey into dentistry. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more expert advice, inside tips, and engaging discussions. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. It would mean the world to us. Until next time, keep smiling, keep striving, and remember, your dental dreams are closer than you think. Thanks for tuning in to the Dental School Guide podcast.